Hi, it's me again. It's PaPe Robert, and we're back with another story. And this time I'm going to read a little bit of an older chapter book. And hopefully you guys will like it. You might even recognize the name of the books that I'm reading. And this might be a little further along in some of their series of stories and stuff. But I got my buddy here, Snoopy. He's going to hang and listen to. Hopefully he doesn't nod up, fall asleep. But that's it. That's Snoopy. We know how he is. Anyways, this one is called it's Ivy and Bean. No news is good news. And off we go. First chapter. Squish, squish, squish. Bean looked around the lunch table. Vanessa had it. She got it every day. Zuzu had it. Emma had it. Margalie had it. Dusset and Eric had it. Even McAdam had it. Everyone had it except Bean and Ivy. While Bean watched, Vanessa opened her lunchbox and took out a small red ball. It was a ball of cheese. But nobody cared about the cheese. The cheese was totally unimportant. The important thing was that the coating around the cheese, it was wax. The wax was red. It was smooth. If you pulled on the secret string inside it, the wax split into two halves. You unfolded them and took the cheese out. Sometimes you took a bite of the cheese. Mostly you didn't. You rolled the wax between your hands until it was warm. Once it was warm, you could squish it. You could squish it and squish it. You could make it into a shape. You can put it on your face. You can hold it in the rest of the day, and it would get dirtier and dirtier until finally it was a small brown lump. Then you could stick it in the middle of the table and say it was a booger. Look it, said Vanessa, rolling her wax. I'm making a soccer ball. Maybe Mom surprised me, Bean thought. Maybe she sneaked a cheese ball in my lunchbox for a special surprise. She peeked in her lunchbox. Nope. Look it, said Zuzu. She had made a little wax horn. I'm a unicorn. She stuck it in the middle of her forehead. Bean could grab the horn. She could grab it and run away with it and move it to another country where she wouldn't get into trouble. She sighed. Ivy poked her with the elbow. Pretend you don't care, she whispered. Check this out, she said, Dusted. He stuck it on wax underneath his nose so it looked like blood was dripping out. Oh, gross. Mrs. Aruba Tate's gonna freak. Bean turned to Eric, who was squishing his wax flat. Trade you my granola bar for your wax, she said. She waved the bar at him. Granola. He glanced at it. Yuck, look it. He stuck the wax over his eye. Do I look like a one-eye? Why don't you put it in your ear, said Bean. Your mom will think your brains are dripping out. That's what Bean would do. No, said Eric. I'm a one-eye. They're called cyclops, said Ivy. Bean turned to McAdam. How about a nice granola bar, McAdam, old buddy? I'll trade you for your wax. McAdam shook his head. He held his red ball of cheese in front of his face and looked at it. Then he bit it. Bean watched him chew the wax and cheese. When he swallowed, she had to look away. What a waste of wax. Look it, said Margalie. She had made a mustache out of her wax. Bean took a sad bite of granola bar. It was going to be a long lunch. After school, Ivy and Bean slumped home. What a day, said Ivy. Another day, another dollar, said Bean. What does that mean, asked Ivy. I don't know, Bean admitted. My mom says it sometimes. We don't have $1, Ivy pointed out. I know, wish we did. If we had $1, we could buy our own cheese balls. Bean shook her head. No, we couldn't. They cost more than $1. Ivy nodded. Here's what I don't understand. Everyone else's parents get them cheese. Why don't ours? We got to keep trying, said Bean. Aren't grown-ups always telling us we have to keep trying? Together, they trudged around the circle of Pancake Court until they got to Bean's house. Hi, sweetie, said Bean's mom. Hi, Ivy. How was school? Fine, said Bean. The answer was too complicated. What's for snack? Fruit, said Bean's mom. She always said that. Fruit, repeated Bean. We don't want fruit. We want cheese. I don't want to hear about that cheese again, said Bean's mom. Have some fruit. Fruit tastes better than with cheese, said Ivy. Especially low-fat Belle de Lune cheese in a special just-for-you serving size, said Bean. Low-fat Belle de Lune cheese was the stuff inside the red wax. Low-fat Belle de Lune cheese in a special just-for-you serving size cost $5 for 6 little itty-bitty pieces of cheese. So if you want it, you can pay for it yourself, said Bean's mom. She had said this several times before. Cheese is good for you, said Bean. She had said this before, too. Cheese is not good for you when it costs $5 for 6 little itty-bitty pieces, said Bean's mom. We'd eat more fruit if we had cheese to eat with it, said Bean. I love fruit and cheese together, said Ivy. There's plenty of cheese in the fridge, said Bean's mom. Not the low-fat Belle de Lune cheese in a special just-for-you serving size, Bean reminded her. I don't want to hear one more word about that cheese, yelled Bean's mom, stomping out of the kitchen. She's so touchy sometimes, said Bean. Ivy lowered her voice. She'd probably be in a better mood if she ate, and she glanced at Bean and wiggled her eyebrows. Low-fat Belle de Lune cheese in a special just-for-you serving size, they whispered together. The next chapter, Cheesy Suggestion. Really, Ivy and Bean didn't want to hear one more word about cheese either. Words didn't seem to be getting them anywhere. Ivy had tried whispering, low-fat Belle de Lune cheese in a special just-for-you serving size in her mother's ear in the middle of the night. Her mother was supposed to wake up in the morning wanting to buy cheese for Ivy. Instead, her mother woke up while Ivy was whispering and told her to get back to bed pronto. You ever try to whisper in your mother's ears for something? Bean put a sticky note in her mom's book. In her best and tiniest handwriting, she wrote, Belle de Lune cheese is good, and stuck it over some other words. She figured if her mom read about Belle de Lune cheese in a book, she'd buy some for Bean instead. Instead, Bean's mom told Bean to leave her books alone. It was tiring trying to make parents do what they should. After they had eaten their fruit, which is boring, and some peanut butter, it's not as boring, but still, and a little bit of brown sugar, Bean and Ivy played Eraser Valley. Bean had 56 erasers in different shapes. Most of them were animals, like bears and pigs. She also had foods, like French fries and toast. Sometimes Ivy and Bean set up shops and restaurants and schools in Eraser Valley. And life was good for all the happy erasers. But mostly, Eraser Valley was a disaster central. There were tsunamis, there were tornadoes, there were avalanches, earthquakes, and plagues. Eraser Valley had been through it all. You guys have a bunch of erasers with different shapes and animals and ice creams and cakes and pencils and babies and smiley faces? I bet some of you have some. Bean and Ivy lined the erasers up and looked at them. What would befall Eraser Valley today? We would sell them, said Ivy. Hey, they're my erasers, Bean said. She picked up the sushi and held it tight. I like them, not for sale. I thought you wanted wax, Ivy said. I do want wax. Then we need money, Ivy argued. We have to sell something. Nancy makes money babysitting, Bean said. Nancy was Bean's older sister. She was rich. Do you think anyone would leave a baby with us? Ivy made a face. What if it cried? Bean made a worse face. What if it pooped? Yuck! Forget it. We've got to sell something. Ivy's determined what it's going to be. Bean thought of a solution. Let's sell some of Nancy's stuff. Isn't that stealing? Asked Ivy. Nah, not really. Only a little. Bean shrugged. She won't mind. Really? Bean thought about the time she had borrowed one tiny spool of wire from Nancy's bead kit, which Nancy wasn't even using, and Bean had really needed. And then Bean would have given it back. If Nancy hadn't found it in Bean's room first and completely freaked out, okay, maybe not. What can we sell? Ivy asked. She picked up a toaster eraser. I bet we could get a quarter for this. You're almost a witch, Bean pointed out. Can't you magically make money? Ivy thought about it. I've never heard of witches making money with magic. Why not? Bean asked. Even witches need money. Wait! Ivy slapped her head. Duh! Witches make money by selling potions. Well, heck, said Bean. She stood up, causing a major earthquake in Eraser Valley. And all the erasers fell all over the place. What are we waiting for? Next chapter is out of business. Ivy had been practicing to become a witch for a long time. She was going to be one when she grew up, for sure. She had already learned a lot of important witch things, like spells and potions, especially potions. Potions were fun because you had to mix ingredients to make them. Ingredients for potions were things like bugs, hair, and leaf juice, and rust. Ivy's collection of ingredients stood on a shelf in a special section of her room she called the Magic Lab. Ivy took her magic book from its hiding place and flipped through the pages, looking for a potion to sell. It had to be something that people would want to buy. What do people want? She asked. Horses, said Bean. She wanted a horse. Ivy looked at her book. Here's one for making your horse as fast as an eagle. Bean rolled her eyes. That's not much help if you don't have a horse. Ivy nodded. Then hey, here's one that makes the first person you touch fall in love with you. Ew, gross, touching. Bean shivered. Maybe we could sell it to Nancy, suggested Ivy. Too mean, said Bean. To Nancy? No, to whoever touched her. Jeez. Okay. Ivy looked through more pages. Then she stopped. This is a good one. A flying potion. Hey, and the flies are one of the ingredients. I've got tons of flies. She looked at the bottle of dead flies on her shelf. That's perfect, Bean said. Everyone wants to fly. I bet we could charge $10 a bottle for flying potion. $10? That's 2 bags of Bella Delone cheese, said Ivy. That's 12 pieces of wax, said Bean. Yuck, said Leo the next day at lunch recess. But you'll fly, said Bean, flapping her arms up and down, show flying. What are those black things, he asked, looking at the jar of potion. It had turned out sort of yellowish, except for the bits that were black. Secret, said Bean. Flies, said Ivy at the moment. Gross, he said. Nobody's going to drink that. You guys are nuts. Ivy and Bean looked at each other and sighed. The potion business was not as good. No one wanted the potion. Not even at the special sale price of $1. Eric said that he would give Bean a quarter if she drank it, but she decided not to. A quarter wasn't enough to buy Belgian cheese anyway. Lunch was almost over. They needed a potion buyer on the double. Vanessa walked by, a lump of red wax in one hand and her brother Toby in the other. Even though he was only in kindergarten, he had a lump of wax too. It was worth a try. Hey, Toby, trade you a flying potion for your wax, called Bean. He turned around and looked at her. She waved the jar of potion. Don't you want to fly? She waved the jar some more. Look, I can hardly keep it in my hand. It's trying to fly away. She gave the jar a little toss. See, and the jar slipped through her fingers and crashed against the cement of the breezeway. Ivy and Bean stared at a million pieces of glass sitting in a puddle of dead flies and yellow glop. Just what do we have here, young ladies? Ivy and Bean turned around. It was Rose, the yard duty. The potion business went from bad to worse. I'm going to take a few-minute break, okay? And then we'll come right back and finish the story. All right? See you soon.